7 is a magic number, and for Manchester United, it might be one of the worst numbers they've ever known in the history of their football club. Or if you're a Liverpool fan and you're Jamie Carragher, 7 up. Welcome back to another episode of One Kick from Glory. It's myself, Clive. I'm joined by Markus and Matthew today, and we have got some fun stuff to talk about. And we want to start with the game at Anfield. There's been so much talk about the return of Manchester United, but last time I checked, Man United that I knew growing up never ever got beaten in this manner before, much less to a Liverpool side, much less when they were challenging for a title. But I want to hand the floor right over to you, Markus. Just talk us through that incredible game and your thoughts as a Liverpool fan on an incredible 7-up performance.
Yep, no, it was beautiful. I think, the thing is obviously, building up, coming in, Man United are favourites, coming to Anfield, even though they've only scored one goal at Anfield in the last 7 years. Everybody's saying Man United are going to win. Man United are looking good. Rashford's on form. And the facts are the facts. Man U hadn't lost in 11. They were looking good. We turned around our form for the last 4 or 5 games in the league, but we had that big Real Madrid, blunder in the middle of all of it. And Man United were the favourites. And I think that is a real warning shot to anyone that thinks they're going to get cocky and come to Anfield and just chill and cruise their way to victory. And, the first half, Liverpool started well. First 20 minutes, strong. Didn't look like scoring too much, but had most of the possession. And then Man United grew into the game. And for 10, 15 minutes, they had a couple of big chances. They missed a couple of big chances. And you had the question marks around, who was the best team in the first half. I think, we probably say it was even, but if you're giving it to one team, maybe just about Man United. But the killer blow goal from Cody Gakpo just before halftime, and then the killer goal from Darwin Núñez just after halftime, and Man United fell apart. And to be fair, it looked like the Liverpool of old. They came back, they took every chance, they was pressing, they was aggressive, they were scoring wonderful goals, everything just came together wonderfully. And yeah, Man United, that is their worst result in all competitions since the 1930s, and it is a pleasure to hand it out to them.
All right, let's start at the top for that match, because I really want us to savour this result. I think it's very easy to just chalk it down to another, Liverpool win, a defeat from Manchester United. It was against the run of their fixtures, and of course your fixtures, because this is one of the worst seasons you've had in recent memory. This is one of the quote-unquote best seasons they're having, post-Ronaldo. Just add that in for context. But let's start off with the lineup for you. I'll start with you, Matthew, on this, and I'll come back to you, Markus, as we kind of dissect this game some more, because I really want to chew this. So this, to me, is like a steak, a medium rare steak that's just, got that garlic butter that's just been basted. It's just amazing. But yeah, we'll start with you, Matthew. So when you sort of look at the lineups of both teams, Liverpool had back their, you could their full strength back five, the team that you'd want to see playing. The midfield was a bit of a mixed bag. And then, of course, the front three, which is now looking like going to be the established front three going forward. When you saw that 11, obviously compared to Man United's 11, which I'd say is their strongest team they could have picked, what was your thoughts looking at that going into the game at the start?
Never thought 7-0 was ever even going to be a thing. I mean, not even close to your imagination. Markus has talked much about how the midfield is an issue for Liverpool. So many gaps, it's aging, as good as it is, it's past its time. Trying to update it for the future. And plus, let's be real, they've been working their socks off for the last 2 to 3 years, competing on 4 or 5 fronts last year at maximum attack. There's going to be injuries, there's going to be this and that here and there. But I think, like you said, the front and the back was looking at its absolute peak. That, thank God, all your main guns were kind of coming back to kind of be in this game. Because as we said, United were the form team coming into this, coming last week, having a decent victory in the Caribao Cup against Newcastle United. Casemiro turned up, the usual lot turned up, Rashford turned up. So it was always going to be a very kind of tense-ish kind of game. But I don't know if it's so much about the lineup that they had at Man United. Now for Man United, their lineup, it's shown just how good it is competing on so many fronts that they're competing in. where it goes wrong, I think it must go with personnel and just deflating after those goals, not being just forgetting how to play football. That's what Ten Hag said. They forgot everything they've learned, everything that's been drummed into them, all that coaching, to literally be ripped apart piece by piece in that second half, which was glorious to watch, by the way. It was fun because they're getting too gassed. I said it last week. They ain't it yet. They ain't it. And you know what? On occasion, I'm right. And this is one of those times. They ain't it. I mean, this won't happen again this season, but it just goes to show that, you know, they're not. Well, I mean, but yeah, I mean, nothing really wrong with the lineup on their side. No, they put up. That's one of their strongest teams. I think with Liverpool, I think coming off the back of that defeat from Real Madrid, and just being able to find that formation and have your players come back strong, ready, and, you know, having so much of a point to prove, plus Salah love score against Man United. I mean, I really can't. It's such an unexplainable thing. We never saw this coming. I know you didn't see this coming, Marcus. I mean, I thought it could be a tight Liverpool win or a best of draw. So there's not formation don't really come into it. Lack of playing does, and believe me, for the last few weeks, I know how that feels like. We're just down tools.
Do you know what's really interesting with all this? Like, there is one person who did call this result, and, well, not necessarily the scoreline, but called the Liverpool win, and that is actually Graham Souness, surprisingly enough, on the broadcast. I managed to catch the pre-match, you know, the kind of talking interviews, and he was confident that Liverpool would win. And of course, the Man United bias,
he also said comfortably.
You know, yeah. So yeah. I don't know. I don't know if that's something he spotted in how Man United play. Because again, looking at the first half, I thought it was quite even. And if anything, Man United had a lot of good chances, but for, you know, they created a lot of chances, but for, you know, better passing in the final third, better finishing, it might have been a different outcome. But the warning signs were also there for them that Liverpool meant business. And I want to start off with you, Marcus, when just looking at kind of like a tactical perspective on this game, because for me, I was really baffled by Anthony and the position he was taking up for Manchester United. Now, it seemed quite clear that he was being played as almost like a counter target. For those of you who play FIFA, or actually those of you who play Pro Evo or FIFA, you can set a player to just stay up the pitch and you just break away with them. For me, on eFootball, I used Cody Gakpo for that. So I was glad that the Thierry Henry regen, slightly discount version, but maybe might get there in the end, bagged 2 goals, and the first one was a Thierry Henry-esque finish. But for me, what I found weird is that, considering who you're playing against, he never tracked back, and Dalot was up against 2 players all the time, and it looked like it stressed him out. And for you, Marcus, do you think that was the beginning of the naivety in Man United, thinking that they could come to Anfield and just do whatever they want and ignore the fact that, irrespective of how you're playing this season, you're still Liverpool?
Yeah, no, I think Man U tactically was a little confusing with a few things. You mentioned the Anthony decision, but for me, the most confusing thing was playing Marcus Rashford through the middle, and through the middle as like the central forward with like 6'25" Verkhorst in behind playing as a ball-playing cam. Like, and I was like, well, I don't know what you're doing here. Like, plus, like, we all had the big build-up talk of Trent versus Rashford. You know, I sent some memes to, you know, my friend, you know, being like, I'm quivering in my boots watching Marcus Rashford run down that left-hand side against Trent. And when I saw that lineup, I was like, right, okay then. Like, you know, Trent's good, man. Like, you know, Trent can get forward, like, doesn't need to defend. Like, you know, nothing to worry about for Trent tonight. And that was the reality. Trent was able to push forward. There was no pressure coming back on him, which has been the kind of, I guess, somewhat weak spot for Liverpool. Easy to expose down his side. It was helpful that Konate was back in alongside Virgil in that regard. And I think tactically we got it right, and the goals came at the right time, like I said. And, you know, always felt like once Cody Gakpo got going, you'd see what he's really all about. And he lacked confidence in them first couple of games as he started to get into it. But look at that second finish, little dink over the goalkeeper. Cody he's growing and growing and growing in confidence, and he's looking very, very good. I think the other couple of things that I will point out on Man United's part is they went 2-0 down. And then when they went 2-0 down, there was no one on the pitch to pull them out of the slump. Like, Bruno Fernandes was an absolute joke. Like, on a handful of levels. As captain of Man United, there was the simulation where he got pushed on the chest and fell down holding his face. There was the pushing the linesman in the corner. There was when Bajcetic came on and skipped past him and he just stood still and didn't do anything. You're the captain of Manchester United. Like, what are you playing at? Like, and for all his credit, when Man United are winning and when things are going well, Bruno is a wonderful player. He's a brilliant player. He's a talent. He's excellent to have on board. When Man United go behind, when there's any struggle, I wouldn't want him anywhere near my team. He is a sulk. He's a child. He throws the toys out of the pram. He doesn't contribute. And he just becomes useless on the football pitch. And Man United were playing with 10 men, having Bruno Fernandes on the pitch. And talking about playing with 10 men, they lost 7-0, but they actually should have had 10 men. Because Lissandro Martinez actually did hit Mo Salah in the face, which should have been a yellow card. And he got a booking for a foul later on in the game, which would have been a second yellow card. And he should have been sent off the pitch. And Man U should have been down to 10 men as well. So I'm glad it didn't matter. But that's also something that should have been pointed out as well.
Yeah, I find a lot of these sort of refereeing decisions quite bizarre. I mean, even the fact that Bruno pushed the assistant referee, that has just been nothing from it. But apparently Arsenal celebrations against, who did we beat? Bournemouth. They're investigating that because it was too much drama. Like, I just don't, like, what did he see? What do they really want? Like, what do they want? Do they want passion? Do they want energy? Or do they just want sterile football? I don't know. But yeah, I think Bruno's kind of, and at the end of the day, he was at fault for the fourth goal, the Gakpo little dink. He tried to cut back, he tried to play the ball back across the box to Fred, underweighted the pass, and had the audacity to be complaining at Fred for not reaching his poor pass. Didn't track back at all. And then off that, the breakaway though, it's absolute poetry in motion. That to me is peak Liverpool. It was like watching Mane and Salah and Firmino in their primes. I don't classify Salah as out of his prime. I just think he's having a dip. But like, what I mean? Like that season when they were it was pure, beautiful football. I mean, even the way, the runs they were making, well, how Gakpo came from out to in. And then, but my favorite bit of all is how Salah sent Lissandro Martinez to the shop, then said, hold on, come back. Where's my change? You forgot an item. Go back to the shop. Make sure you get the right thing. And then laid it on a plate for Gakpo, and then the audacity of Gakpo to even attempt that finish. That is amazing. And I want to put this question back to you, Markus, because I remember when we spoke a few weeks ago about the front three and how you felt about them. That was off to the back of you. It was your draw against Palace, I believe. And you said you weren't really happy with the fluency there, and you thought that it wasn't quite, Salah wasn't quite pulling his weight, or it wasn't quite happy with what you were seeing. But I felt like even from that game, that the shoots were there, that they were starting to get an understanding, especially the way how Núñez and Gakpo rotate the central forward position. And as that develops over the season, I think teams are going to really struggle next year with figuring out who on earth to mark in the middle. But do you now feel like you're starting to see that blueprint of your front three again?
Yeah, no, for sure. You gotta give credit where credit's due to Salah. 2 goals, 2 assists, big game. Man steps up, does what he needs to do. 4-goal contribution. Now, a shout out, Liverpool's all-time top Premier League goal scorer, which is huge. Absolutely amazing. Congratulations, Mo Salah. That is top notch. And, one of the things that has to be said as well, and, I hate to be harsh, but this shows the standards and of expectation upon someone like Mo Salah that myself is like his disappointing season. Mo Salah, all competitions, 23 goals. Marcus Rashford, all competitions, 25 goals. Marcus Rashford's having the best season of his career. Mo Salah underperforming.
That's the bar. That's the bar
That's
right
mad.
there.
So yeah, the fluency was beautiful, and it's only one game. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. We need to go on a run. We need to keep this going. It'll be interesting to see how Luis Diaz fits back into that mix. Jota obviously back from injury. How is he going to fit into that mix? But it is good to see that front three firing in the way they did. Nunes getting 2, Gakpo getting 2, Mo getting 2. They're all putting the ball in the net well, and then even good old Bobby Dazzler, who announced he's leaving, came on to wrap up the 7th, which was beautiful to see. So yeah, I do think the fluency's coming.
And just to talk on that note of Bobby Firmino, like I want to throw this to you, Matthew, as well. I mean, when I heard the news that he was potentially going to leave, and I mean, I guess it's not confirmed he's going to be going end of the season, I was quite saddened at the fact that it's officially the end of the era. I mean, Salah's the last man standing in that famous front three. Firmino's been a great servant for Liverpool, and he's done so much over the years, and how he's reinvented the number 9 role. People might not like to hear it, and in fact, a major criticism of Firmino when in seasons gone by was like doesn't score enough goals, doesn't quote unquote contribute enough to the result, and yet how many teams play a false 9 now? How many Premier League teams, use the wingers as, the main goal scoring threats? And at Arsenal, we do that when Jesus is around and Martinelli and Saka come in and do their business. And we will get onto Arsenal shortly. But like for you, Matthew, do you look at what Firmino has set as a blueprint and how Liverpool evolve on? And obviously, I think Jota probably will play a similar role going forward. But like, how do you sum up Firmino for you as like a Liverpool player and an influential striker in the Premier League?
I think, and Marcus, you might agree or disagree, but I see as someone who was just happy to be in the Premier League. I think he was really happy to be at Liverpool, and he again, we look at this thing where there's 2 ways you look at a player. You look at the numbers, or you look at what they left behind for the club as a person, as a player. All right, his numbers don't necessarily give that much joy, but when you watch him, when you see him, and just how much passion he has for the club, he's been through. I think he was one of the first ones there. Correct me if I'm wrong. When Klopp came in, I think he was like one of the OGs of the OGs from when it started to where it ends right now, leaving off and scoring, one of his last great goals against Man United, in the 7-0 thrashing. That's going to be remembered forever. And he reminds me of that kind of player where it's just like he loved the club. He was just really relished. He was happy to be there and just being part of the squad. It almost felt like as if he knew what his place was eventually when other players came in and they updated the squad over and over again. And what's what that Jurgen Klopp did with that front three. He's updating it. So whoever comes in now and fills in what his role was has got to realise that, he loved this club to no end. And there are lots of players where you can look at other players in other clubs that fill that position of, they might not have got the numbers, they might not have got those high mad achievements that other ones did, but he's got, let's be real, if he wanted to come in, let's say it was freezing at night, he was cold, hungry, whatever, couldn't get home, Klopp's always going to open that door. That Liverpool door is always going to be open. They won't leave him out. Why? Because of the contributions and his commitment and effort to the club, which can't be stressed enough. We know that from an age from when we were watching football, it meant a lot when you were committed to the club, even if your numbers weren't adding up, even if they weren't there. But he liked being there, and the service to the Premier League is another one of those great performers, great players that let it all kind of hang out on the pitch. And I think Liverpool will miss him. I think the Premier League's going to miss him. Because you're losing out on players like that. They're harder to come by. You see how it is, unfortunately, at some clubs. The power's too much. But players like that aren't about that. They want to play. They want to be on the pitch. They want to let it all hang out on the game. So we're sadly slowly losing players like that. But all the power to him for wherever he goes next. He's still got much to prove. So wherever he goes, he's going to get a good player, good squad player, someone who's going to be committed to their cause and champion everything a manager gives them. So, all the power to him.
Indeed. Well, we're going to move on from the Liverpool game, but we might have some closing thoughts on that match because it was such a beautiful moment. But so talking, we will get into Arsenal a little bit later. Jesus has come back just in time for Easter, and which is great and fitting for us. But Arsenal weren't the only team that drew inspiration from the Bible. Chelsea have also decided to take a leaf out of Genesis book, and after 6 games of no wins and frustration, they decided to figure themselves out, and on the 7th game they won. So well done for you guys taking a leaf out of Genesis 1 through 3. But over
7 is just a special number, man.
It's a very special number. Sometimes
Lucky number 7, man.
You need to go through those 6 days of pain for that 7th day of glory. Or watch 7 fly in the back of your net and cry about it later. But on to that game, you finally got that winless streak over with a 1-0 win against Leeds. And I think what's been interesting as well with Chelsea right now is that there was an interview with João Felix in preparation for the Champions League game he had yesterday against Dortmund, and he was quite complimentary about Graham Potter and talked about how much he's enjoyed playing under him and how it's been like a new lease of life, which I guess for him is not really hard when the comparison is to Simeone, and that was like hell on earth. But hey, but for you, Matthew, how do you feel now? Looking at those 2 games in particular, because I don't want to go ahead and say that, things that you've turned a corner and Potter's the man for the job. But how do you feel like as a Chelsea fan that now you've got 2 wins on the bounce, 2 very strong performances, and things are starting to look a lot better for Graham, although his P45 is still in the post?
First of all, we are staying up. Thank God. We are staying up. Thank God for that. We're a few more points away from that. P45 is, let's say, I don't know, it's gone down the M25 and there's always traffic down the M25, so it's getting there much slower. But yeah, you're right. Not only 2 good results, but also like very good performances. We've turned not a massive corner, but we're going now in the right direction. In particular, in the game on Tuesday, playing against Dortmund, where they're on mad form. I think they're like 10 undefeateds, coming into this. And from the last game, I wrote off the game, if I'm brutally honest. I only happened to remember to watch it on Tuesday and be like, let's see what was going. But there was something different. It's almost as if now he's figured out pretty much in the Champions League with the squad that he wants to play, figuring out that Koulibaly is best down the middle. All right, fine, Kai Havertz is there, but so is João Felix, so is Raheem Sterling, and they complement each other really, really well. Cucurella put in a great performance as well. Who thought they had it in him? After all this time, he's finally trying, he's literally pulling his weight, and of course, Reiss James has to feature as well, but he unfortunately again is injured. But I'm not too worried because I know that now that he's figured out a good system, I think he's almost found the team that he wants. I'm confident for a win against Leicester on Saturday. The Leeds one had a little bit more stress because I knew they're in relegation. They're in bottom 3. They're fighting, but then again, so are we. So Fofana coming up with that header gave me such a breather because kind of started out a little bit sticky, but he jumped up with his first goal. I mean, I'm happy for the guys. His first goal, such a stress off my mind, and we held strong. So it shows that as much as we like to panic, and maybe I panicked last week after those poor results, that there's some kind of DNA there that he's trying to implement. It's almost like but I think the players he has are going to listen to him a little bit more. I think there's certain players there who are going to really take on board what he has to say. A lot of players are now, they're coming to a point where they don't need to be told, but I feel the feeling now is like João Felix says is they're taking on board. He's one of the new ones. You get a sense that he's trying. I mean, from since he's been here, he's put on some really good performances, and he slots really well into the team. And hopefully now, if he stays fit, between now until he goes back, he'll continue to flourish and take us to God knows where now. I mean, I'm not saying we're going to get into the top 4. I don't think it's going to happen, but maybe 6. 6 is not impossible, but it's just going to be hard. We've got to win pretty much all of our games. Also, I know one more thing. I've given this guy hell. Everyone has given this guy hell to justify his price tag, but I've got to compliment him on that penalty, and that's Kai Havertz. Icy cool, taking that penalty the same way twice, missing one and then scoring it again. He could have easily turned it down. He could have done something different. I would have done something different, but credit to him getting that second goal. So, I mean, he's still not in the good books anyway, but the fact that he got that goal to send us through, credit where credit is due. So, let's, like with Markus at the moment, that's 7-0 for them. This 2 wins on the bounce for us. Let's see where it takes us. Leicester's next, winnable game. Then again, the last 7 were all winnable games as well. Let's see where it does. We've got here because we've got Leicester, and then we got Everton, and then I think we've got Villa coming up. So I call all of those winnable games, and Villa are right behind us. So the winning's got to start now, right now.
Yeah, the winning definitely has to start now. I think in terms of like the Kai Havertz praise, I'm going to cap it, because at the end of the day, it's like an Amazon delivery driver. He got your address wrong the first time around. Next time the same driver comes, gets your address right. Well done, but that's you done your job. You're doing your job. So when he's consistently delivering, and even coming ahead of schedule, then we'll start to praise him a bit more. But I wanted to throw this to you, Marcus, because obviously there's been a lot of upheaval with your own defence, Liverpool, with injuries and players not being available and not having that core of Konate and Van Dijk, who we know from last season were just so instrumental in allowing you to play the way you want to play. And for Chelsea now having Fofana back being fully fit, what impact do you think that will have going forward? Because I think a lot of people have forgotten that, one, they had him, and two, how good he is as a defender.
Well, I don't know, because I don't know what Chelsea's best defense is. Like, they have so many good defenders. I'm not sure if I was picking that Chelsea team that I would play Fofana week in, week out. I think if I'm picking the Chelsea team, Reiss James is going to be a right back, no doubt, unquestionable, best right back in that Chelsea squad by a mile. I think Cucurella and Chilwell are relatively even, but I'd give it to Chilwell fit. So if Chilwell's fit, he's got more attacking presence and a bit more about his game in the way that Potter would like to play. If it was a Pep team, then maybe Cucurella would kind of fit the style. But for Potter's style, I think they're your two fullbacks. But then if you're going just two at the back, then for me, Thiago Silva has to start. He's Chelsea's best centre-back when fit, and everything's just very comfortable when he's at the back. And then Badilishvili looked really good alongside Thiago Silva. So I think they would be my four if I'm playing, four at the back with Chelsea. Now, if you're playing five at the back, then maybe Fofana gets in as your third centre back. I wouldn't go near Koulibaly. But again, it shows Chelsea's depth, like in defenders, centre backs. When you're talking Thiago Silva, Koulibaly, Badilishvili, Fofana. These are good quality centre backs. But I think to me, Fofana obviously very good, very composed on the ball, very comfortable, good young English centre back. They spent a lot of money on him. He's got potential. And when Thiago Silva is no longer at Chelsea, because it's inevitably coming, then Badilishvili and Fofana is a beautiful pairing for the next 5-10 years if Chelsea want them to be centre backs. But I think for now there's still going to be some fighting for that second central back spot next to Thiago Silva.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, is there's so much competition for places, and almost as if there's some poor squad planning there. Surprise, surprise. But I guess on like a final note on Chelsea, obviously the starboy Mudryk seems to have been like frozen out of things, and it's really making this transfer, this humanitarian effort from Chelsea to Shakhtar Donetsk look even more and more questionable as time goes by. I think just as a final point for you, Marcus, Matthew, actually, are you a bit concerned about what's going on with Mudryk and the fact that he is like completely slowly being shuffled out of favour in the club?
I don't think Potter has ever really fancied him. I think it was very much at 100%, 101-10% Bowley signing. He started off quite well when he first couple of games. I think his debut game was either Fulham or Liverpool. In fact, it was the first signing we made it.
Liverpool.
Yeah, Liverpool game, and he looked fantastic. He looked great. But it doesn't matter if the manager doesn't necessarily fancy him. He's never showed a kind of exact commitment to back and try and play him over and over again, which sucks for a guy on a very long contract we spent a lot of money on, who's still young and still finding his feet. And I don't even think that wasn't he kind of like flirting with Arsenal even more so. It's just the fact that we just stepped in. Yeah,
flirting. He was
flirting, twerking.
I can't even call it flirt. Man was twerking. Yeah, I mean, he was in the DMs every night.
He was there, and I know someone's came in, and slightly different. Someone's, but I just don't think.
You know what? Here's my analogy. This takes us back to like when we were younger and like younger, and when we used to work at Oshi, and you'd see that one person grafting all night. He meets sees someone he likes. He's grafting, bought a couple drinks, chatting here, chatting there. then he turns his back, goes toilet, comes back, next guy's taking her away. So like it's kind of like that, really. That's literally what he did.
Us a city
really.
boy? Are you calling us city boys or something? City boy Chelsea?
I wouldn't say city boy. There's another word I'd call you guys, but anyway, it's a family podcast.
But yeah, I don't think I genuinely don't think Potter's ever really fancied him at all. I can't remember the last time I've seen him play, and that's the worst now that I think he's in the last 2 games he seems to have found his team that he likes, which is bad news for a lot of other players as well, because we're not massively far from January, and I believe there is going to be a big exodus of players that don't fit his, if he's to still be there, they're not going to fit his like line of thinking. So maybe the tough hasn't come out yet, but maybe it will come in the next few months. So I hope for Mudrik's sake, I'd rather keep him than say someone like, I don't know, Ziyech. He can do one. So I'd rather keep someone like him. We put a long contract behind him, a lot of commitment behind him. So it's not as if we've got any cup games to play. We're not in any cups apart from the Champions League. So those are maybe towards I would like to see him more on the bench, maybe come off at half time, something like that. There's so much content there we've got at this team. So I want to see him again. To certain players like, again, Ziyech, he can do one. Let's go away.
Yeah, like I think one of the things to think about when it comes down to that is that Chelsea only play 2 wingers, and they have, from what I can see, 7 feasible options that could play in them 2 positions. So you João Felix, Mudryk, Sterling, Pulisic, Ziyech, Madukle, and Lewis Hall. So 7 players that have featured this season that could play in them positions. Mudryk's not fit. He's just not fit. So how can you play a player who's just not fit? Like you need him to hit the ground running, but it's the awkward catch-22 where game time is going to get him fit, but you have to suffer the game time. And, if I'm, Ziyech, like you say, I think he's played a couple of games because Potter felt bad that he didn't get that PSG deal across the line, so had to play him in some games. But, like, if you're João Felix, Sterling, Madukle, Hall sat on the bench, you're like, this guy's not performing, let me in. So I think there's some competition, and whoever's performing is going to keep them spots. And, Sterling put the ball in the net recently as well. So, he's going to be like, look, I've earned my spot, keep me in. João Felix is performing really well. So I feel like they are the main 2. And then it's going to be on Mudryk in the 15-minute cameos to show up. And as someone who's had him in my fantasy football team for the last 3 or 4 weeks, I can tell you when he's had them 15-minute cameos, he's not shown up.
Yeah, but I mean, if at any point, Matthew, you guys are happy to offload him, we'll definitely take him off your hands, £35 million, and we'll bring that £35 million. We'll bring that Starboy over to the carpet.
There's a one missing. There's a one missing off that 35. I'll let you decide.
I mean, we could take 10 off and make it 25 if you really want.
Oh my god.
I think 15 is a fair price, but I'll say 35 just to be kind of balanced.
Epic maths fail. Oh my god.
Or even 25. 2 + 5 is 7. Just keep the theme going. But moving on from the star boy who hasn't quite hit the highlights to the original star boy in Reiss Nelson, scoring in the 97th minute to give Arsenal a late 3-2 win against Bournemouth. I was super gassed about that result. Again, I was not able to watch the game. It wasn't broadcast on UK TV and I was busy filming at the time. But it was just checking Twitter, seeing it was 1-0 down after 11 seconds. I was like, that's it. Turned it off. 2-0. I was like, okay, well, that's done. And then I got saw that it was 2-1 on Twitter. Then I got a message on my work WhatsApp group chat to say, oh, I don't know what it is of Arsenal. And I'm like, what do you mean? So I'm refreshing the Twitter, nothing's changed. I go on the Premier League app and I'm like, oh, we won 3-2. Reiss Nelson, 97th minute. I was like, oh, okay, I just started running around the room. I was running around the room where I was filming, and it was just hilarious to see. But yeah, I want to level this with you, Markus. Obviously, some people have kind of chronicled this season of Arsenal as being like a Leicester type season, but I think probably one of the big differences is that there's been a lot of control for Arsenal in most of the games. Tonight's game, it ended 2-2 between Arsenal Sport and Lisbon away from home. 2 disappointing goals to concede because there's 2 set-piece goals, and I'm seeing that's becoming an increasing trend as the months gone on as Arsenal's vulnerability at set-pieces. which is very unusual because we started the season really strong there. But we'll get on to that in a bit. But like, do you think that maybe looking at how Arsenal are playing, does it give you shades more of your title run in the dominance in the performances rather than the Leicester one where there were a lot of other factors alongside Leicester's good performances?
Yeah, look, I think everybody performed poorly in that Leicester season, right? There was no really clear team that stepped up. But to credit Ranieri, he came in, he figured out what he had, and he got the best out of what he had every single week. And they played to Vardy's strengths, and Vardy was brilliant, Leicester was brilliant, Kante was fantastic, came on the scene, and, that little energy battery that is N'Golo completely dominated the entire season. And yeah, I think that, I think Leicester were good, but the standard wasn't Man City, wasn't Liverpool. Whereas if you look at Arsenal's half a season points tally, they're on track for 100 points. Like, they are hitting the heights of Liverpool and Man City's standard. The only question is, can it continue throughout the entire season? Because you would expect there to be a blip period, but Arsenal have kind of avoided the usual blip period. However, we have to factor in that the World Cup has pushed the season back. So Arsenal's usual blip period would be in that kind of, February, March time, whereas the season is technically a little bit behind because of the World Cup. I think it's inevitable Arsenal go through a tough run. And, they have a couple of bad results and they're going to have to really, pull it together with Man City really on their heels. But, again, this is where Arsenal showed up. They 2-0 down, 1-0 down really early, didn't show up straight away, went 2-0 down, didn't show up. But, you're getting goal. This is what championship seasons look like. Do you remember that time when Ben White scored and Thomas Partey scored and Reiss Nelson came off the bench and scored a 97th minute winner? Like, they're the types of moments that you kind of look back to in title races and you say, hey, players coming from nowhere and pulling things out of the bag in the way that you need them to. So look, I think Arsenal are on track for, high points tally. I think Man City are the biggest challenge, obviously, and right on your shoulders, and will probably continue to be so, with another convincing performance at the weekend against Newcastle. But I think this is an exciting title race. I think it's a good time. There's really only two teams in it. Man United weren't in a title race before they lost 7-0, and they're certainly not in one now. And I think actually Man United are gonna struggle to hold on to that third spot, and it might become a battle for third and fourth between 3 or 4 teams as the season comes onto an end. But yeah, so I think Arsenal are right in the mix.
Yeah, and I guess in terms of like the rough run of games, I know there's a big block of fixtures coming up. I think in a couple of months it's going to be quite tricky. I think Arsenal's next 5 games actually look quite okay. We've got Fulham away, then Palace and Leeds at home, big game at Anfield against Liverpool, and then West Ham away. West Ham away traditionally has been a tricky game for Arsenal, but the last few seasons we've kind of navigated it a lot better. So there's a couple of games there where things could be a bit tricky, but I'd expect for the ambitions that we have this season, for how we're performing, we'll definitely do a lot better and definitely live up to it. And of course, like I said before, Jesus is back, so with him coming back and being available, that's going to make a massive difference to all that we want to do and to kind of help us keep going on our ambitions for this season. And I'm quite happy with what I'm seeing. Like I said, I was really glad to see Nelson get off the bench and get a goal and just remind everyone what he's all about. He played okay today, wasn't quite able to influence the game as much as he wanted to. He was trying a lot of things, but it didn't quite work out. But a 2-2 draw away from home in the Europa League is not the worst result. Take them back to the carpet, and then we'll just turn up our levels against them then. Maybe Jesus might be in contention for that match because he was in full training, but it was a bit too soon to kind of put him into like a match day situation. And to be honest, with some of the tackles that was going in, I wouldn't want to put him in that match either. I saw a couple of their guys kick. The ball's gone and one of them need Tomiyasu on the leg. I mean, it's just not necessary. It's just unnecessary stupidness. But hey, it's just this competitive game, a lot riding on it, and you want to get a scalp against Premier League leaders and prove that you're a big team. So fair play to them. But I'm really happy with it. I guess for you, Matthew, when you look at Arsenal this year and how things are progressing, look at that game. Do you wish you could kind of bottle some of that fight back and just transport it over to Stamford Bridge and Cobham and give your players a drink off some of that? Because you played well against Dortmund and you played well against Fulham. Although I think Fulham could have turned up the heat a little bit and Leeds could have turned up the heat a little bit and maybe could have given you a bit more problems. But do you feel like some of that fight back that Arsenal have is something that's a bit lacking in your team this season, putting aside the last two games?
Well, that's what for the standard we've had in the past. That's exactly what we've had. Not by like dwelling on the past too much. There's no point talking about what we used to be. We've got to talk about where we are right now. And the sad thing is that's what we were. We had goals. I mean, can we all admit that goal by Reiss Nelson was fantastic? Such a gorgeous goal. And at that time in the game when you're on the brink of a draw to a win, if you're going to get a winning goal, you're going to do it like that. And it's going back to like what Markus said. Remember when Reiss Nelson did this? Remember when Ben White did that? Not even your big star players. We're talking players of the squad driving through. I would love to have that right now. I would love to see someone like Sterling and be like, come on, I've been here before. I've won leagues. I've been to finals. I've played at the highest level. I've played at international finals. To translate that to some of the other players. It's not like the other players are losers. Some of these players here know how to win. They've been around long enough to know, or joined a club like Chelsea to know that winning is the expectation. Winning is one of the main, almost like the number one target. So goals will literally have to come from like everywhere. Not giving up, not having that your head down when you're going 2-0 down before half time. If Man City score first, fine, we'll come back and get 2. If Liverpool score 3, fine, we'll try and match them in 3 to the end of the game. We're gonna try and and that's that can rear its ugly head sometimes. We have this thing where you only pay for half an hour, and then whatever happens. Like, well, we turned up for a half an hour. It is what it is. That's definitely something that you guys don't have. You keep on going, you're singing from the hymn book, everyone tries to get a goal, you're throwing people forward, you believe in the system, you believe in where you're going this season. You're not and the best thing about you guys is that you're not getting overexcited about what could happen come May. You're going by like, we're taking game by game because anything could happen. We all know you, and like we've all said, you haven't hit that part where you've had really poor form. You've overcome literally every challenge with a World Cup. February's now gone. It's now March, April, May. So we're going towards the tail end of the season and you're still very much where you are. You're in control. So I would love to have that kind of fight and just discipline is the word. It's the discipline to remain, serious in games. We've got, as good as the players that we have in their ability, a lot of their heads sometimes they drop. It's that weak mentality, like backbone of a quaver sometimes when things don't go their way, and that don't win you games. That doesn't set the world alight. You've got to have a bit of especially in a league like the Premier League, you've got to have a backbone because I'll let you know. Teams will come by, the fans will give it to you. The fans will let you know if you ain't playing. After all this turning up, after all the time I'm turning up, I'm going to voice my opinion. The fact that you're not turning up, but we are. So as good as we are in our ability, we just have to muster that thing where we can't. We sometimes you gotta be ugly. You gotta go. It's like a cold night to Leeds. Dig it out. Literally dig deep. So yeah, I'm looking at you guys thinking you remind me of us 10 years ago, 10, 12 years ago, where it's like, it's a good feeling. I can't really hate because it's a good feeling when you have it, when you got every single player pulling 100% of their weight 100% of the time. So it's like, whatever happens at the end of the season for you guys, it's been nothing other than a success. Nothing other than success.
I'll take that. I guess so. Like the final thing to wrap up the podcast today, just looking at the Premier League table. Obviously, I'll start at the bottom. So the bottom 3, we've got Bournemouth on 21 points, level with Southampton. Goal difference of +6. Southampton have ahead of Bournemouth. Bournemouth on -27, Southampton on -21. Everton on 18th on 22 points, which is tied with Leeds, but again, goal difference separates them. You got West Ham in 16th, Leicester on 23, Leicester in 15th on 24 points, and Forest in 14th on 26th. So it still anyone could get dragged down into it. I think if you're a Leeds, West Ham, Leicester, and maybe to a lesser extent Forest fan, you might be a bit concerned. I think the way our Forest are playing, to be honest, I think they'll be fine. Leicester are just so inconsistent, but I think they'll do enough to survive. It's the other 5, West Ham, Leeds, Everton, Southampton. I think they might be in serious trouble. Bournemouth, if Bournemouth survived, I wouldn't be shocked. With the way how they played against Arsenal, they have something there. They just can't defend for Toffee. You know, they had all those bodies behind the ball, but they just can't defend. But they have something in how they go forward. Switching to the top of the table, and we'll go up rather than down. In 10th, we've got Chelsea on 34 points. Ahead of them is Brentford in 9 on 38. Level of points with Brighton. Brighton have a better goal difference. Then Fulham in 7th on 39. Wow, you're behind in your West London table. How embarrassing. Then Newcastle in 6th on 41. And now the point I really want to draw attention to. Liverpool, 25 games played in 5th on 42 points. Tottenham, 26 games played in 4th on 45 points. So Craig's prediction of Liverpool catching up to Tiny Tots looks like it's coming more and more true. And also, Man United might want to look over their shoulders because they're on 49 points in 3rd with 25 games played. And of course, the top 2, you've got Man City, 26 games played, 58 points. And of course, Arsenal, 26 played, 63 points. So just a quick round going around the room. I'll start with you, Marcus, to celebrate this, 7 heaven indeed. And in fact, just to tie up all the 7 themes, you've only lost 7 games this season. So that's quite nice as well. But what was your predictions for the final top 4 come the end of the season? Right now, it's Arsenal, Man City, Man United and Tottenham. But what's your final top 4?
Okay. Man City first.
Sure.
Arsenal second. Liverpool third. Man United 4th.
All right. Matthew, what's your top 4?
So from the bottom, I'm going to go with Man United. Third, I'm also going to go with Liverpool. The wins with them. And once they figure out the beast that they are, and there's nothing really going to stop them. Man City second. Arsenal ahead by a point. I'm going specific.
Very good.
Ooh, okay.
I'm being specific.
Yeah, I'm going to go Arsenal, City, Liverpool, and Newcastle.
Right, mixing it up.
I don't know. There's just the way Man United capitulated in the second half. There's something really bad about it. It's one thing to lose a game, right? When it was 3-0, you take that, you shut up shop, and you just move on from the match. The way how players were stopped running, not tracking back, it was very, 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 very poor. Now, hopefully it's a one-off and they bounce back the next game. But if not, then boy, they are in trouble. And Newcastle might be having a hangover from the Caribao Cup disappointment. However, they've shown enough this season that they can turn it around. Right now the main issue is that up front they're not firing properly. Like Wilson's missing some really good chances. Ishak hasn't quite found his shooting boots, but the shots he's having are actually quite good, but just not quite. It's just fine tuning. And I think once they get that balance right in that front 3, Almiron's obviously gone off the board a little bit. So Maximan is exciting, but the goals aren't there. If the goals come back in that front 3, I think they're going to be a big problem. For Man United, the issue is and has always been midfield. Defence they've sorted in up front. It's Rashford or bust, and Rashford didn't score against Liverpool, so it was bust, which I said it was going to be the case a few weeks ago, and whoop-de-doo. Guess I was right. But anyway, we'll call it there. It's been a great week of 7s. Gary Neville skipped his job on Monday at Monday Night Football. Jamie Carragher was there celebrating with a nice little 7-up. Liverpool have definitely shown us all how to bounce back strong, and Man United will be hoping in the Europa League game later that they will do the same, and if not, it's fine. 7th place is calling if you want to go back there. But that's us signing out. Have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you all next time.
Safe.
Peace.
Peace.